She swung that pry bar like she was auditioning for a demolition derby, grinning ear to ear as my grandfather's old mailbox crashed to the lawn in a heap of twisted metal and shattered pride. The HOA queen, decked out in her signature pearls and visor like a suburban general, hissed community standards, as if those two words could rewrite property deeds and federal law. But as her victory smirk faded with the arrival of unmarked SUVs and badges flashing in the sun, I just stood there recording, knowing her empire of petty rules was about to crumble into hilarious oblivion. I never asked for the spotlight in this cookie-cutter suburb of Maplewood, Ohio, where every lawn looked like it was trimmed with a ruler and every garage door matched like they were in some cult of beige. I'd inherited the place from my grandpa, a no-nonsense vet who'd built it with his bare hands back when the neighborhood was just rolling fields and freedom. Folks whispered I was some reclusive troublemaker, spreading rumors that I was dodging taxes or hiding something shady because my yard didn't scream conformity. They painted me as the black sheep, the guy who didn't show up to block parties or kiss up to the board. But I kept quiet, sipping my morning coffee on the porch, watching the parade of minivans and perfectly manicured lives roll by. Inside, though, I was cataloging every sideways glance, every snide comment overheard at the mailbox cluster. Grandpa had taught me patience wasn't weakness, it was ammunition. "Let 'em talk," he'd say with that gravelly chuckle. "Words are wind until they blow back in their faces." So I observed, documented in a little notebook tucked away, waiting for the wind to shift. This wasn't my first rodeo with busybodies. Back in the city, I dealt with nosy landlords spreading lies about late rent to jack up fees. Here, it was the same game, just with more golf carts and less honesty. The HOA led by the infamous Linda Hargrove. Everyone called her Karen behind her back, but to her face, it was Madam President, ruled with an iron fist wrapped in a velvet glove of community values. She was the type who quoted bylaws like scripture, all while her own flower beds violated half of them. But who was going to call her out? Not the spineless board, that's for sure. They feared her more than a bad credit score. It started innocently enough, or so they wanted it to seem. One crisp autumn morning, I found a pastel pink envelope stuffed in my mailbox. Not mailed properly, of course, because that would require actual postage and respect for federal property. Inside was a typed notice on fancy letterhead that screamed official, but smelled like desperation. "Dear resident," it began, as if they couldn't be bothered with my name. "Your mailbox does not comply with Section 4.2 of the HOA Aesthetic Guidelines. Non-approved color and height pose a visual obstruction and detract from neighborhood harmony. Rectify within 7 days or face a $25 daily fine." I snorted into my coffee. Harmony? My mailbox was the same rusty red it had been for 40 years, predating their precious HOA by a solid decade. Grandpa had installed it himself after his postal service days, making sure it was rock solid and exactly to code, federal code, that is. But facts didn't matter to these folks. Control did. I crumpled the paper and tossed it in my recycling, figuring ignorance was bliss. Big mistake. That evening, as I grilled burgers on my back patio, gasp, without a permit for outdoor cooking apparatus, I caught whispers from the fence line. "He's ignoring it on purpose," one neighbor hissed. "Thinks he's above us all." Another chimed in, "Linda says he's probably squatting. No way that old deed holds up." I pretended not to hear, but jotted it down. Date, time, names. The rumors ramped up fast. By week's end, the neighborhood Facebook group was ablaze with posts like, "Concerned about the eyesore at 47 Oak Lane. Is this lowering our property values?" Tagged with Linda's profile pic, her in a power suit, smiling like a shark in pearls. She replied with faux concern, "We're handling it for the good of the community. Standards protect us all." I almost commented but held back. Let them dig their own grave, I thought. Grandpa's voice echoed, "Don't wrestle pigs. You get dirty, and they enjoy it." The notices kept coming, each more ridiculous than the last, like they were testing how far they could push before I snapped, or better yet, complied. A week later, another envelope, this one sealed with a sticker that said, "Urgent compliance required." Inside, additional violations noted, unapproved mailbox flag mechanism and potential obstruction of sidewalk views. Fine escalated to $100. Attend the next board meeting to appeal. Appeal? To what? Their kangaroo court. I imagined Linda presiding like a judge on a bad reality show. Gavel in one hand, clipboard in the other. Instead of raging, I laughed, darkly to myself, picturing her face if she knew my property was grandfathered in, literally and figuratively. The deed was ironclad, signed before the HOA even dreamed of existing. But I stayed silent, installing a discreet trail cam overlooking the driveway. Just in case, I muttered, channeling Grandpa's paranoia from his military days. Sure enough, the escalation hit like a bad sequel. 2 days after ignoring the second notice, I spotted them. Linda and her 2 sidekicks, Bob the accountant with his perpetual frown, and Susan the retiree who volunteered for every committee like it was her life's purpose. They weren't knocking. Oh no, they were inspecting. Bob snapped photos of my mailbox from every angle, while Susan jotted notes furiously. Linda directed like a film auteur. Make sure to capture the non-regulation height. And that color. It's practically screaming rebel. I stepped out casually, coffee mug in hand. Morning, folks. Lost. Linda spun, her visor casting a shadow over her too-perfect makeup. We're conducting a routine compliance check, Mr. Ellis. Your property is disrupting the aesthetic flow. I raised an eyebrow. Routine? On private land? Last I checked. My deed says otherwise. She waved her clipboard like a magic wand. Everyone contributes to the community vision. Exceptions breed chaos. Bob piped up, smugly. Yeah. Think of the home values. I chuckled inwardly. Home values my ass. Their vision was just code for do as I say. Appreciate the concern, I said flatly. But you're trespassing. Step off, please. Susan gasped like I'd slapped her. Linda's eyes narrowed. We'll see about that. Non-compliance has consequences. As they retreated, whispering furiously, I hit record on my phone discreetly. Their hypocrisy was comedy gold. Linda's own mailbox had a tacky eagle decal that violated their precious rules. But who was counting? The harassment cranked up to 11, turning the neighborhood into a farce of fake outrage and whispered campaigns. Fines piled up in my mailbox like junk mail. $200 for ongoing aesthetic breach. $150 for failure to respond. Each one more pompous. Signed by Linda with a flourish that screamed, I matter. Rumors evolved into outright slander. Group chats buzzed with, he's probably growing weed in that old shed. Or, heard he's evading HOA dues by faking his deed. I caught Mark, the quiet widower next door, glancing over guiltily while mowing. They asked if I'd seen anything suspicious. He muttered later over the fence. Said you might be a safety risk. Safety risk? For a mailbox? I nodded, jotting it down. Thanks for the heads up. Inside, it stung, the isolation, the way folks crossed the street to avoid me, but I channeled it into strategy. I visited the county records office, pulling my deed and printing copies, plus federal postal regs on mailbox protections. Knowledge is your best weapon, Grandpa used to say. Meanwhile, Linda's antics grew ludicrous. She organized a neighborhood watch walk that conveniently looped by my house thrice, her entourage pointing and tooting like bad actors in a satire. See? That flag is 2 inches too high, she'd declare loudly, for the audience of cowed neighbors. One evening, a bright orange sticker appeared on my door. Hazard warning. Non-compliant structure. County alerted for inspection. I drove to the county clerk that afternoon, calm as ever. Any complaints on file? The clerk, a bored woman with glasses, tapped keys. Nada. Who's sending these? I showed her the sticker. She rolled her eyes. HOA nonsense. Tell him to stuff it. On the way home, I upgraded my cams to night vision. The dark humor hit when I overheard Linda at a block barbecue I wasn't invited to. He's undermining our values. If we let one slide, it's anarchy. Anarchy over a mailbox color? Priceless. But the laughs turned bitter as isolation deepened. Kids stopped waving. Deliveries got misdirected. They were manipulating the whole damn street, and Linda reveled in it, her fear of losing control making her double down like a gambler on a losing streak. Then came the pinnacle of absurdity, the moment where Linda's mask of civility shattered in broad daylight. turning her from petty tyrant to full-blown clown. It was a sunny Saturday, the kind where birds chirped mockingly at the drama below. I was in the yard, tending Grandpa's old rose bushes, when her SUV screeched up, followed by Bob and Susan in tow, phones out like amateur paparazzi. Linda stormed out, pry bar gleaming from her trunk. Yes, she kept one handy for emergencies. "Enough is enough," she bellowed, visor askew, pearls clacking like angry teeth. "This eyesore ends now, for the community's sake." Neighbors peeked from windows, drawn to the spectacle. She jabbed the bar under my mailbox base, grunting theatrically. "Non-approved, obstructive, a blight on our harmony." Metal screeched as she yanked, face reddening with effort and rage. Bob filmed shakily, "Documenting for the records." Susan nodded vigorously. "Yes, for standards." I didn't budge, just hit record on my hidden cam and phone. "That's federal property you're destroying," I said evenly. She laughed maniacally, twisting harder. "HOA authority supersedes. We protect values." With a final heave, the mailbox toppled, crashing in a cloud of dust. She straightened, triumphant, wiping sweat. "See? Compliance achieved." The board clapped weakly, like seals trained for treats. But her victory lap halted as two unmarked SUVs purred up, doors opening to reveal county officers and a postal inspector. Badges out, expressions stone-cold professional. Linda's grin froze, then melted into comical panic. "What's this?" she stammered, clutching her clipboard like a shield. The lead officer stepped forward. "Reports of vandalism, harassment, trespass. And ma'am, that's a federal mailbox you just wrecked. Up to $250,000 fine and jail time." Her jaw dropped, eyes darting to her minions, who suddenly found the ground fascinating. "But, community standards," she whined, voice pitching up like a deflating balloon. The inspector held up his phone, showing fresh photos. "Standards don't trump law. You're under arrest." Neighbors emerged, phones filming now pointed at her. Whispers turned to chuckles. "She really did it. What a joke." Handcuffs clicked, cold, final, hilarious in their irony. Linda sputtered. "This is for the greater good. He's the disruptor." I finally spoke, holding up my deed. "No, you're the bully who just got schooled." The crowd murmured agreement, applause building as she was led away, still ranting about values like a broken record. Justice didn't yell. It just arrived, exposing her farce for what it was. In the aftermath, the neighborhood exhaled like it had been holding its breath for years, the suffocating fog of Linda's reign lifting to reveal a clearer, freer sky. By evening, the board resigned en masse via a frantic group email, effective immediately, due to recent events. No apologies, just tails between legs. The HOA dissolved quietly, their bylaws turning to digital dust. Neighbors trickled over, sheepish at first. Mark brought beer. "Sorry I didn't speak up." She had us all scared stiff. The blue sweater lady from down the street hugged me awkwardly. "You showed us we don't have to live like that." I rebuilt the mailbox that weekend, using Grandpa's tools, carving a subtle middle finger into the wood. Kidding, but it was a bird in flight, symbolizing escape from tyranny. The mail carrier saluted it next day. "Solid work. Your Gramps would have loved seeing that which get hers." Peace returned, real this time, no more patrols, no forced smiles. Yards bloomed wildly, kids laughed louder, and folks waved without fear. I sat on the porch, coffee in hand, reflecting on how petty power crumbles under truth's weight. Legacy isn't about noise. It's quiet resolve. And in that stillness, I knew Grandpa was smirking somewhere. But here's the kicker that lingers. Was Linda truly the villain? Or just a product of a system that lets clipboard warriors play God? Drop your thoughts. Was her community protection ever justified? Or pure control freakery?